Hello everyone and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today we are going to dive into something that's on pretty much every parent's mind these days, screens. Look, I know it can feel like a total minefield, but my goal today is to cut through the noise, bring some real clarity, and give you a simple, actionable plan. Welcome to Empower Fantastic Life. Find your power, live without limits.
So here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll look at it in 4 simple parts. First, we'll get into what's actually happening inside a developing brain with screen time. Then, we'll look at the price that gets paid down the road. After that, we'll talk about the essential human skills that kids might be missing out on. And we'll wrap it all up with a practical playbook for your family that you can literally start using tonight.
All right, let's dive right in. We're starting with the science, but I promise we're going to keep this really straightforward and focus on what you actually need to know.
So, this is really the core question we need to ask. Why all the focus on those first couple of years? Well, it's because the science is pointing to a very, very specific window of time that matters more than any other.
So there is this landmark study, and it's a big deal because they followed kids for over a decade, and what they found was pretty unambiguous. High screen exposure before a child turns 2 was directly linked to long-term changes in the brain. The key takeaway here isn't about screen time when they're 3 or 4, it's about this incredibly sensitive period in the first 2 years of life.
The term they use in the study is accelerated maturation. Now, accelerated sounds good, right? Like they're getting smarter faster? But it's actually the opposite of what you want. It means the brain is developing too quickly because of all that intense stimulation from a screen before it's had the chance to build the really strong, efficient connections it needs for complex thinking later on.
Okay, here's the perfect way to think about it. The weak foundation analogy. Imagine you're told to build a massive skyscraper, but you have to do it in half the time. From the outside, it might look finished, right? The windows are in, it's tall. But deep inside, the foundation is shaky. The wiring is a complete mess. That is exactly what's happening in the brain. It looks like it's developing, but the underlying structure just isn't solid.
Okay, so we've got this weak foundation. Now, what's the big deal? The thing is, those cracks, they don't show up right away. The real price for this is often paid years and years down the line.
And this timeline from the study really maps it out so clearly. You can see the domino effect. It starts with that high screen time between ages 1 and 2. That leads to measurably slower decision-making and reaction times by age 8.5. And that, in turn, predicted a higher likelihood of anxiety symptoms by age 13. It's a direct, traceable path that starts in the crib.
So, we've talked about the brain science, but there's also a human cost. When kids are on screens, they are, by definition, not doing something else. And that something else is where they learn the most essential skills for life.
I love this quote. The authors of the book Screen Kids just nailed it. Technology can deliver information, but it can't teach a child how to form a relationship. It really gets to the heart of what's at stake here.
So they identify these 5 core irreplaceable skills that you just can't learn from an app. They call them the A+ skills: affection, appreciation, anger management, apology, and of course, attention. Think about it. A video game might teach you to get frustrated and just hit restart, but real life teaches you to manage that anger constructively. An app can't teach you how to look someone in the eye and genuinely say, "I'm sorry." These are the absolute building blocks of emotional intelligence.
Okay, I know this can all sound a little bit doom and gloom, but here is the really good news. The most powerful solutions are actually much simpler than you think. So let's get practical. Let's build your family's playbook.
Really, the key to all of this is just being intentional. It's not about being perfect. So, pulling from the best advice from places like the Mayo Clinic, it really boils down to these core strategies. Setting clear and consistent limits, that gives kids the structure they need. Creating tech-free zones, like making the dinner table a sacred space. That's where connection happens. And, of course, modeling the behavior you want to see yourself.
All right, for the littlest ones, under 18 months, the guideline from the American Academy of Pediatrics is super clear. Basically, no screen time. Their brains are literally wired to learn from the real 3D world, from face-to-face interactions. The only exception they make is for video chatting with family, because that's still a social interactive connection. Now, once they hit that 2 to 5 age range, the focus changes a little bit. Here, the guideline is to limit it to just 1 hour a day and, this is crucial, of high-quality programming that you watch with them. When you co-view, you're turning what could be passive zoning out into an active, shared experience where you can talk about what's happening. Oh, and this is a big one. It's a trap so many of us fall into. Please, never use screen time as a reward for good behavior. When you say, if you're good, you can have the tablet, you are literally teaching their brain that the tablet is the ultimate prize. You're making it more valuable. Instead, reward them with things that reinforce what you really value, like a new ball to play with outside or planning a fun family trip to the park.
And this is so important to remember. The antidote to too much screen time isn't just taking the screens away. That creates a vacuum. You have to replace that time with something engaging and real. We're talking about outdoor play, board games, reading together, filling that space with connection and genuine, real-life fun.
And this really brings everything full circle. This quote is from the lead author of that brain study we talked about at the beginning. She confirmed that simple, connected parent-child activities, like just reading a book together, can actually make a real difference and can even help counteract some of those brain changes. It's that human connection that provides the rich food a developing brain craves.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a really practical question to think about. I'm not asking you to overhaul your entire life overnight. Just think about your family's daily rhythm. What is the one small, tech-free moment you could create and protect starting this week? Maybe it's the car ride to school. Maybe it's the first 15 minutes when everyone gets home. What's your one small step? You've been listening to Empower Fantastic Life, Jaeger Empowerment Academy. See you next time. Bye-bye.